Good morning. Welcome to week 3. We're over halfway finished. We're on the downhill side now. First off, the good news. There's no more statistics. We are through with statistics, folks. I know we didn't touch on a whole lot of statistics, but we're through with them. Everything we're doing from this point forward, the common denominator you're going to see in everything we talk about between now and the end of the semester is the customer. So when you get to the exams, if there's a question you're not sure of, it's an open-ended kind of question, a short answer question. If you say something about the customer, you're probably going to be right, or at least half right. So today I want to introduce the topic of supply chain management. Now I know it's a supply chain course and we're halfway through and we're just not talking supply chain. We had to set the foundation in our survey of decision making before we start talking about supply chain management. The good news about supply chain is, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic panic buying, everybody, everywhere, is familiar with the term supply chain. Doesn't mean they understand it, but they're familiar with it because everybody wants to blame the supply chain for all the empty shelves in all the stores. The fact that people bought thousands of rolls of toilet paper when they only needed four rolls, or hundreds of rolls of paper towels when they only needed a 6-pack, or a pallet of water when they really only needed a case of water and probably didn't need that because there's nothing wrong with our water supply. People bought panic buying. Like I walked to the commissary yesterday in Fort Leavenworth, and I was amazed to see that last time I walked through the commissary, there were paper towels, but no toilet paper. This time there's plenty of toilet paper, but no paper towels. So everybody's familiar with the term supply chain. So let's talk about what it is and all the components of supply chain. There's some pictures in your slide deck of the Panama Canal because it's got huge implications to supply chain. Stuff moving from Asia to U.S. East Coast or from Europe to Asia, moving through the canal as opposed to going down the Cape of Good Hope down at the end of the base of South America, adding another 10, 12 days to the shipping time. First thing I want to point out is that supply chain and logistics are not the same thing. Now, those terms get used interchangeably a lot because everybody seems to understand or think they understand what logistics is. Well, we couldn't do this because the logistics of doing this, it's kind of like a catch-all. Whatever we can't do, it's because of logistics. So they're not the same thing. They're not interchangeable. Logistics is a subset of the supply chain. One of the reasons this is so confusing and get used interchangeably is the term logistics. In fact, if you look at the writings of Sun Tzu in 512 BC, he talked about supply and logistics. Term's been around a long time. Alexander the Great used the term logistics, talking about what he did in his army moving across Europe and Asia in 323 BC. The term supply chain has only been around for about 28 years in use in business. They're a little longer, but only about 28 years in business as being used as a term. So it's a relatively new term. Compare 28 years to 500 BC, and obviously there's a whole lot of difference in how long we've been using logistics versus the term supply chain. Logistics is a subset of supply chain. It's moving stuff from point A to point B. So you look at your slide deck, there's some pictures there of airports, there's some pictures of the Kansas City Speedway, because the race at Kansas City, or any other race, or any other athletic event, the event is the easy part. The difficult part is the logistics of it. If you think about the race at Kansas City Speedway, getting 40 race teams, or in a weekend with two different series going, 80 race teams from Charlotte, North Carolina to Kansas City with the teams, the cars, the backup cars, the repair parts they need, all those things they're going to need to run for the race. to Kansas City and then back after the race to prepare for the next race, getting the drivers, the crews, the owners to Kansas City and back, getting the fans into the stands. Okay, maybe not this summer because they're going to race in front of no fans, but a normal race, getting the fans into the stand, getting the food, the drinks, the souvenirs into the arena and back out afterwards. That's the logistics piece. And getting all the garbage out afterwards. That's part of the logistics piece. The race itself, 40 drivers driving around a mile and a half tri-oval, turning left all day long, that's the easy part. It's the logistics and the supply chain that make things a little more difficult. Now I got a picture in the slide deck. I hope it'll make you laugh. It's from a Marine truck. I don't know how they got under this overpass. It's just kind of, there's an example that things don't always go right in the supply chain. I've also got some pictures I think are very critical. I've got a picture of an elephant, a rhinoceros, and a buffalo there. Now, the elephant and the rhinoceros are from a photo safari I did about 9 years ago in South Africa. I have these here for a reason, because there's also some illegal supply chains out there. And I want to focus on a couple here. One is the rhinoceros. For some reason, in some societies, the horn of the rhinoceros is seen as an aphrodisiac. Newsflash for you. The horn of the rhinoceros is the same collagen in your fingernail. And nobody's ever found my fingernails to be an aphrodisiac. But they kill these beautiful animals. They chop off the horn. They grind the horn into a powder, put it in a little capsule, and it's supposed to be a great aphrodisiac. And they leave the rest of the animal there to rot on the African lands. The elephant's the same way. They kill these beautiful animals for their tusks to get the ivories. And they use nothing else of the animal. They create this illegal supply chain. We've got to work on fixing that. There's lots of illegal supply chains. These are the ones that concern me the most. We got to work on fixing these because we're killing off animals, creating extinction, just so we can have some part of the animal. Now, the third picture of animals there is a picture of a buffalo. Reports, validated, verified reports, say that around the 1860s, here in Kansas, there were about 18 million buffalo. Think about that. If you're in Kansas, you're driving from Lawrence or Kansas City to Wichita or to Topeka or to Fort Riley, to Hayes, to Salina, wherever it is you're driving across Kansas. As you're driving through the Flint Hills, think about 160 years ago, that land was covered with buffalo. 18 million buffalo. Today, there's a handful of buffalo. There's some, like I got the picture of here, up at Fort Leavenworth. There's some at Fort Riley, at the front and back gates of those places. There's some in herds that are used for meat. I have some Cherokee ancestry. And my ancestors, when they used these animals, they would shoot a buffalo, and they would use everything. The horns, the skin, the tongue, the meat, everything. Apparently, in the 1860s, 1870s, on the east coast of the U.S., buffalo tongue became a delicacy. People came out, and all they did was hunt buffalo. They would shoot these beautiful animals. They would chop off the tongue, ship the tongue back to the East Coast as a delicacy, and leave the animal there in the Flint Hills to die. We've got to stop these illegal supply chains that are killing off animals still for parts of the animal. I got some quotes there in the slide deck, and they're just nice to know quotes. They're not there for any particular reason other than I like these quotes and they look good. I got 3 videos that are posted in the slide deck. Click on those links. Take a look at them. One of them is the UPS We Love Logistics commercial, which is one of the reasons I think we have some of this confusion between logistics and supply chain in business. Part is because we haven't done a good job as supply chain professionals and as educators of telling people what supply chain is. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. These videos kind of show some of the importance of supply chain. One of them kind of shows the globalization of supply chain, where things come from. And the third video shows the importance of logistics and supply chain in Great Britain, which is critical because as they go through this Brexit and Great Britain is leaving the European Union at the end of this year, officially, they're not supposed to be in place, it's going to impact how they do supply chain because they won't have the free trade that they had in the past. What I want you to think about from a supply chain perspective is, and I got the quote they used to ask all the folks that worked for me when I was in the Army, what in the world is not logistics or supply chain? Think about this. Think about the clothes you're wearing, the computer you're watching this video on, computer I used to make the video, your phone, your food, your vehicle. They've all got supply chains backing them up. And nobody gets concerned about the supply chain till something goes wrong. That's why everybody's talking about supply chains now with all the pandemic panic buying. So the term supply chain management is really about 38 years old. It showed up originally in a series of papers done by two consultants in Great Britain for the consulting firm Booz Allen Hamilton. When they worked for Booz Allen, they put these papers into internal papers. This is the future of business and the future of logistics. But it wasn't until 1992 the term actually became used in business, because a guy named Martin Christopher wrote a book, Logistics. And in his book, Logistics, he had these two papers written by these two consultants in Great Britain. First time they saw the light of day outside of Booz Allen, people started using the term. Oh, I like this new term. Problem was, nobody really knew what it meant. They're throwing this term around, but they weren't sure what it really meant. So I've got some definitions here in your slide deck. Take a look at them. I got multiple definitions from different sources, different professional organizations. I also have a quote there from Sun Tzu. If y'all have not figured out by now, we'll see Sun Tzu pop up a couple more times. I like the work of Sun Tzu because it's got some applications in business. It's easy to read. You can get a free copy of what Sun Tzu wrote at sonshi.com, sonshi.com. And you can read his work for free. I recommend this sometime while you're in school because you're going to do business with people in other countries. And in Asia, most of the business schools require you to read Sun Tzu and think about what Sun Tzu said in relation to today's business. So in the very first statement, the very first line of The Art of War, he's got this statement: war is a matter of vital importance to the state, the province of life or death, the road to survival or ruin. It's mandatory that it should be thoroughly studied. So like we did before with Sun Tzu, we're going to do a little literary license. We're going to pull out war. We're going to put in supply chain management. And I think it's just as accurate there. Supply chain management is indeed a matter of vital importance to the company. It is the road to survival or ruin. If you look at companies that are having troubles now, Toys R Us had a supply chain issue. They ran out of cash. They couldn't buy new products. They couldn't ship products to the customers. They went out of business. Several companies during this pandemic are having issues because they can't get product to the customers. Got an email this morning from Target saying, Mr. Walden, we promised you this product by the middle of May. It's now the middle of June, and we're not sure when you're going to get it. Should we cancel the order or keep the order open? Well, I don't need it anymore. I found it somewhere else because I got tired of waiting for it. So companies are having issues getting products to customers, and therefore they want to blame the pandemic instead of the fact they can't get the customer the product. Again, several definitions in the slide deck. The one I want you to focus on is the one that's titled Association for Supply Chain Management. It has the same things everybody else has in it. It talks about the global network, delivering products. It talks about the transformation from raw materials to end user. But it also mentions this concept of cash. Not sure why the other definitions don't. They're not that they're bad definitions. Not sure why they don't mention cash. Maybe it's because they assume everybody knows I got to have cash to be in business. Somebody please tell Toys R Us you got to have cash to stay in business because they didn't have it. Companies going bankrupt because they don't have cash to pay off their bills. Somebody please tell them you have to have cash to stay in business. I've got to have money in the supply chain to buy products, to ship products. Then I get money back from the customer. Then I can pay for my products. So I need to understand this cash to cash cycle. How long does it take for me to get my money once I sell the product to the customer? And how soon do I have to pay my suppliers? You look at Dell. Dell has a negative 35-day cash to cash cycle. That means 35 days after I paid for my new computer last month, they pay their suppliers. Not a bad model. Got my money immediately, and then 35 days later, they pay their suppliers. I've got to have cash to make the supply chain work. There's another definition that's been around for a while for the supply chain. Most companies call it the 6 rights. I've got it in the slide deck for you so you can look at it. It's the right product at the right quantity, at the right condition, at the right time, at the right place, with the right billing. These 6 pieces make up a metric called perfect order fulfillment. Now, why is this important? Because when you order something, you want it to be the right thing. If I ordered this shirt and they sent me the wrong size, it's the wrong shirt. It's the wrong product. 3 years ago, I had some shoulder surgery done, and I needed a smaller computer to carry around with me. So I was working on my PhD doctorate at the time, my dissertation. I needed a smaller computer to carry around with me in one hand because I had the other arm in a brace for 6 weeks. The options for this little tablet computer that I ordered, it came in silver, black, red, or blue. I thought, you know what? I've never seen a lot of people with a red computer. I'll get a red one, put a big KU sticker in the middle of it, and I got crimson and blue on my computer. We're good. The bill showed up with the computer. The packing list said red computer. The bill said red computer. The box had a blue computer in it. I still kept it. I mean, I just put a red sticker in the middle of it. Still got crimson and blue on my computer, but the wrong product. The right quantity. What does that mean? If I order 2, I want 2. If I order 3 different shirts, I want 3 different shirts. My experience has been, seriously, in the commercial world, if you order 2 and I send you 3, I probably won't know about it. If you order 3, I send you 2, I'm gonna know immediately that you shorted me. Now here's my experience just recently buying some plates for my gym. I ordered 4 5-pound plates, but I needed those to complete what I was using there. And give me some options. They sent me 5. Well, anybody's lifting weights know you need even numbers of plates. You can't put 2 on one side and 3 on the other. Somebody said, well, just put 2 5s and 2 2.5s on one side and 3 5s on the other side. No, that looks stupid. I contacted the company and said, look, here's a picture. You sent me 5 plates. I only paid for 4. The response I got back was, there's no way we can make that mistake. You must be mistaken. I looked at the picture. What don't you see in the picture that's a mistake? There's 5 plates there. They all still have your barcode on it when you shipped it, so you know that those are the 5 you sent me. I either need you to send me another one, let me buy another one, so I have a complete set of 6, or you need to get this one back. They, again, refused to accept the fact they sent 5. So now I've got 5 5-pound plates. Don't know what to do with their weird one, but I got 5 of them. The right condition, that just means it shows up and it works. It's not broken. The right time. If I order something, back to my discussion earlier with Target, if I order something, I need it. I'm not smart enough to order something I need 3, 4 months in the future. I'm going to order it when I need it. I'm going to buy it when I need it. If I order it from you, I probably need it right now. Not a month later telling me, well, we don't know when we're going to ship it. Okay? Cancel the order. Not perfect order fulfillment. The right place. If I order it and I have it shipped to my house, I want it shipped to my house. Don't leave it at my neighbor's house. Deliver it to my house. Otherwise, I may not get it. And I want the right invoicing. If I buy this item online and your website says this item is $29.95 plus shipping, $5 shipping, I expect when I get my credit card bill, it's going to be $34.95. If you send me a bill for $39.95 plus $5 shipping, with a rationale, well, the price went up, I don't care. When I clicked on the website, it said $29.95, $5 shipping, that's what I should pay. Any one of these 6 rights, if they're not done right, may end up in you getting the product back from me. 1995, kind of go back to our history of supply chain. 1995, the Supply Chain Council was formed. The Supply Chain Council was formed because people started using this term supply chain in business. They weren't sure what it really was. So some consultants and some manufacturing firms said, we need to get together. We need to define what a supply chain is and what a supply chain looks like. So in your slide deck, I've got what's called the Supply Chain Operations Reference Model, the SCORE model. It's a depiction of what the supply chain looks like. Now it's a linear depiction. If you look at this picture here, at the make piece, if I'm Apple, I've got over 100 suppliers for my iPhone. I have 100 of these chains coming in at the make piece there. But what it says is that every single supply chain, and they're on version 12 or 13 of the model now, every single supply chain has 6 basic functions. Somebody's got to plan what we're going to make, what we're going to sell, how we're going to sell it, where we're going to make it. Are we going to buy it completely made, or are we going to make it ourselves? How are we going to get it to the customer? And how are we going to get it back? Somebody's got to buy something, the sourcing piece. Somebody's got to make something, either me or somebody's got to make it for me. We'll talk about that make piece a little more in a couple of days. We talk about process design. Somebody's got to deliver this made piece to my customer. My customer could be you, the end user. It could be another company to take my component and make something else out of it. It could be a distribution center that I am moving from my manufacturing to distribution, or from the manufacturing to a store. And then if something goes wrong with it, those 6 rights, if I violate one of those 6 rights we just talked about, it's going to come backwards. Or it could be seasonal item coming back where I didn't sell it. And then the 6th function is the enable function. All those things, all those systems I need in place to make the other 5 functions work. And what they tried to show was in this SCORE model is that the supply chain goes from the supplier's supplier to the customer's customer and everything in between. From the time you buy the raw material till it's in the hands of the end user and maybe back into the system if something's wrong with it. There's some functions within the supply chain. We're going to cover most of these today, and into the future, so I won't beat these things up. I got to think about several things that have impacted supply chain management. Globalization is one of them. And we touched on globalization when we introduced the concept of operations management, day 3 of the course. The internet has created globalization for everybody. I can buy from anywhere, sell anywhere, never touch the product. It's increased the competition because anybody who's got a website wants to spend good money on a website and willing to spend a little money to bump up in the Google search engine is a competitor. May not be a peer competitor, but they're a competitor. I've got all kinds of new information coming along every day that I didn't have before. I've got shorter product life cycles. Products don't last as long as they used to, or may last as long, but replace them more frequently. My first cell phone, first off, was about yay big. I needed a bag just for it. The battery weighed 2 pounds. Big, huge thing. Big antenna on top. I had coverage everywhere with this thing. It was ugly. It was huge. It was not portable, really. But it lasted for 3.5 years before technology finally got rid of it. Today, people want a new cell phone every year because Apple has a new cell phone every year. Everybody wants a new one. So I have shorter product life cycles. There's a concept in the supply chain called the bullwhip effect. It comes from information flow. It gets its name from the old bullwhips. If you ever watch Indiana Jones or any old Western movie, they got the bullwhip. Handle about yay long, 6 or 8 feet of braided leather. You move the handle just a little bit at this end, creates huge distortions at the other end of the bullwhip. That's where the name comes from. In the supply chain, if I'm not passing good information, a small change in demand pattern at the customer level creates huge distortions at the other end of the supply chain. Big, huge push in the late 90s, early 2000s. We want to replace inventory with information. The first time I heard that, I thought, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. I can't sell information, I can sell inventory. But as I delved down into it, what I discovered, what they're really saying was, the better the flow of information, the less distortion there is. The less distortion, the less inventory I need on the shelf to cover those fluctuations. For example, my first daughter was born when I was in grad school the first time. Once my wife went back to work, I had my daughter during the daytime. I was in class at night. So we did the baby swap halfway between her office and my classroom. Well, what would happen was, if I ran out of diapers, I had to take my daughter, put her in the car seat. I had a little two-door car at the time. Put her in the car seat, go to Walmart, get her out of the car seat, into the basket, into the store, get the diapers, back into the car seat, back to the house, out of the car seat. Too many non-value added steps there. Back to our idea of creating value, non-value added steps, waste. So I'd stop at Walmart on the way home from school. I'd pick up 2 or 3 packages. My wife would buy the diapers, she'd get 1 package. Created this distortion. If every dad is buying 2 or 3, every mom is buying 1. Now I've got this small change in demand pattern at this Walmart. Feedback to the Walmart distribution center supporting 100 plus stores. Now I got more distribution. 125 distribution centers at the time, and Walmart feeding back to Bentonville, more distortion because they're all getting the same thing. Pass it back to Procter & Gamble, more distortion. Get back to this end of the supply chain, 3M. I got this huge distortion at 3M from a small change in demand pattern down here. The better the flow of information, the less distortion. The less distortion, the less I need to have this insurance policy that I call inventory. I have inventory as an insurance policy to make sure I don't stock out. The less distortion, the less I got to carry. The better the flow of information, the less distortion. Less distortion, less inventory. Less inventory, less money I've got tied up in stuff I haven't sold yet. I am a firm believer that needs to be one person or one office in charge of all the supply chain information. Almost every organization has a chief information officer. I think, based on my experience in the Army, we need to have a chief supply chain information officer. All the supply chain systems, all the supply chain information controlled by this one office. Just my theory. I want to be able to track my stuff in the supply chain. I can do this several ways. Radio frequency identification tags, or RFID tags, or I can use barcodes. Either one gives me visibility. The barcode's been around for a while. The Army tried this thing, I don't know, mid-60s. They came up with this idea of logistics marking system, putting basically a barcode on every vehicle shipped to Vietnam so they could track it. Decided it's too expensive. 70s comes along, commercial industry starts looking at this barcode. We can put this universal product code, this barcode, on every product. You can scan this product. It'll update your inventory system. All you do is change it in the computer, change it on the shelf, scan it, boom. Problem was the barcodes then got started putting onto products before the barcode readers were available. When the barcode readers became available, nobody trusted them. Because like the problem describing a supply chain, We didn't take the time to educate the consumer what this universal product code was. Today we take it for granted. Back then it was something new and different. Had not seen it before. People knew what the price tag was on top of a can at the grocery store. They didn't understand this barcode. Everywhere you went, there was big signs. If the scan price does not match the shelf price, we'll refund the difference. Then about the mid-'80s, Walmart came along. Walmart said, you know what? They're right. We can scan this item. We know in nanoseconds in Bentonville what was sold at the Lawrence Walmart. We can then go to our suppliers, tell them what's been sold, so they can get ready for the next time around. By the mid-'80s, Walmart was that 800-pound gorilla, could pretty much drive the industry. People say, well, if Walmart's going to do it, we'll do it. And now, again, today, 25 years later, 35 years later, we take it for granted. From a customer service perspective in the supply chain, we're back to that idea we looked at earlier, perfect order fulfillment, those 6 rights. It's a simple calculation. I take the percentage of time I get you the right product, times the percentage of time I get you to the product at the right place, times the percentage of time I get you the right quantity, times the percentage of time I get the right time, times the percentage of time that I get you the product in the right condition, times the percentage of time I get you the product with the right billing or the right invoice. If you look at the slides in the slide deck, at 99% across the board, those 6 areas, I take 99 times 99 times 99 times 99 times 99 times 99, I get 94.1% perfect order fulfillment. That's still not bad. I'm sure everybody in this class will be tickled to death with 94% score across the board in the course. So it's an A. In anybody's book, that's an A. If I look at 95% and take 95 times 95 times 95 times 95 times 95 times 95, now I'm only at 73.5% perfect order fulfillment. That's one of the problems with this metric. Back to using statistics. If you're talking to your boss is not a supply chain person. So you tell your boss, we have 6 critical areas: right product, right place, right time, right condition, right quantity, right billing. All 6 areas, boss, we're 95% across the board. Boss will go, hey, great. But if you tell the boss we have this metric that really measures how well the supply chain is taking care of the customers, we call it perfect order fulfillment. When we calculate it the right way, boss, we're only at 73.5%. Roughly 25% of the time, we're not taking care of the customer. Your boss doesn't understand this metric. Which one are you going to tell him? Seriously. It goes back to using that statistic that makes you look best. The next part of supply chain I want to talk about, as we look at the supply chain umbrella concept, is procurement. Buying stuff. Procurement really is finding the suppliers, finding the materials, negotiating the price, negotiating the delivery, negotiating the terms, confirming the delivery, and paying for it. If you think about that, if you put that into an everyday scenario, isn't that what you're really doing when you go to the grocery store? So you've got multiple options. Here in Lawrence, you've got several Dillons. You have a Hy-Vee. You've got the Merck, Aldi's, Natural Food Store, Target, Walmart. Did I miss anybody? I think that's it. Basically 7 different options. Oh, and Sprouts. So you got 8 different options of grocery stores here in town. You basically choose your supplier, your major supplier, when you go to Dillon's. So you go to Dillon's to shop. You're choosing your major supplier. Now, Dillon's is not going to negotiate with you on price, but within the store, you've got several different brands of product at different prices, and you have the Kroger or Dillon's brand and the generic brand. So you kind of negotiate the price, but you pick which one you want, maybe based upon price or based upon your secondary supplier that provided that product. You can negotiate delivery terms. They'll deliver it to you. You can order it online and pick it up, or you can go to the store and buy it yourself. So really, in kind of a microcosm, every time you go to the grocery store or to the department store or the clothing store, you're doing procurement. So you're doing some part of the supply chain pretty much every day. When I do procurement, I got to make sure I'm dealing with my suppliers in the right way. One of the key things in supply chain that I think is important to keep in mind is supply chains are built upon relationships. Very few monopolies out there. So if I as a supplier can't take care of you, you're going to go somewhere else. I have to keep that in mind. Part of the sourcing I want to focus on too is the idea of multiple sourcing, single sourcing, sole sourcing, because those are out there as terms and as concepts. Multiple sourcing means I'm buying from multiple places. Depending on what I'm buying when I do grocery shopping, I may go to Dillon's, or I may go to Hy-Vee, or I may go to Sprouts. Multiple sources, or I may go to the Merc and buy stuff from the Merc. Multiple sources that I may use for groceries. I go clothing shopping. I may go to different places. I don't get all my clothes at the same store. I use multiple sources. That's multiple sourcing. Single sourcing says there are multiple sources available, but I only buy from one place. So back to my example of 8 different places to shop for groceries in Lawrence, or 8 different options. If I only go to one all the time, that's single sourcing. It's like gas stations. There are multiple gas stations all over town, but most people use the same gas station over and over again. Could be because it's got the lowest price. I get fuel points from the grocery stores. I can use them here at the gas station. It's convenient. It's on the way home. Whatever the reason, multiple sources, but only using one is single sourcing. Sole sourcing literally means I got a monopoly. The only place you can get this product or service is from me. Not a whole lot of sole sources out there in the world. Obviously, you want electricity in Lawrence, you've got to go through the same one company. You want garbage service in Lawrence, you got to go through the city. They're the sole source. But outside of some services and commodities, there's not a whole lot of sole sources out there. Next piece of the supply chain umbrella is distribution. As I mentioned earlier, it's just moving stuff from point A to point B. It's what we have traditionally called logistics. And the driving force in this piece of the supply chain is speed. How quickly can I get you the product? That ability to get you the product is probably the lifeline of the organization. Within the distribution system, I've got distribution centers. Because of the growth in e-commerce and the growth in reverse logistics, the size of a distribution center continues to grow. 30 years ago, if you had a 300,000 square foot facility, that was big. Today, if you have 800,000 square feet, it's just average. Next piece of the supply chain we'll talk about is transportation. I can't do distribution without transportation. Ain't gonna happen. I gotta move something somehow. Underneath that transportation piece, there's several subsets of transportation. First one is railroads. Been around a long time. Hasn't changed much over the last 100 years. There's roughly 95,000 miles of track in the United States. Usable track. Trains are low cost, very high volume. The biggest advantage trains have over other modes of ground transportation is I can move large quantities for much less cost. If I double stack, and I got a picture in the slide deck of double stack containers. If I double stack a train, I can move a 100-car train for about the same transportation cost of driving one truck across the country. Double stack it, that's the equivalent of 200 trucks for basically the same transportation cost of one truck. Rail, though, is pretty much inflexible. I can't just stop anywhere. This isn't like the old Western movies where they stop in the middle of nowhere, kick boxes out, keep on going. I've got to have a rail siding or a spur to pull off onto to offload the rail cars. Like I got a picture, black and white picture is the rail siding, the rail spur in Yermo, California. We used to use when I was out there and they still use it, for bringing in heavy equipment for training at the Army's National Training Center. I can't just stop anywhere. I've got to have a rail siding to go to. Makes it a little inflexible. Next piece of transportation is trucking. A lot more flexible. They got different sizes of trucks. I can stop a truck anywhere, depending on the size of the truck. Roughly 70 to 75% of all the stuff moving in this country, by quantity, not by volume, not by weight, but by quantity, moves on a truck. From the port to a manufacturing facility, truck from a port to a distribution center, truck from distribution center to a store, truck from a distribution center to your front door. Roughly 70, 75% of all the stuff moves on a truck at some point in time. It's flexible. Again, depending on the size of the truck, I can go anywhere. I'm moving everything from big, huge semi trucks. They're moving stuff across the country all the time, to the little small FedEx, UPS, or even the little smaller Amazon Prime delivery trucks, delivering stuff to the front door. Within the trucking world, there's two concepts I want you to understand. Truckload versus less than truckload. Truckload is, I've got enough stuff I'm moving, I'm leasing your entire truck, nose to tail, 8 by 8 by 53, that trailer. I'm filling it up. Less than truckload, it's kind of like UPS, FedEx, Yellow Freight. I'm only paying for the weight and cube that I'm shipping. I can't fill up a full truck. Why pay for a full truck? Just pay for what I'm shipping. That's it. Next piece of the transportation is air and small parcel, because over the last several years, those two have kind of merged. All of the small parcel carriers also have their own air, to include Amazon Air now. So they've kind of merged those two pieces together, and it continues to grow because of the growth of e-commerce. It's relatively expensive compared to just shipping it by truck or by train. But again, it goes back to a relative term. If I want it tomorrow, I got to have it tomorrow. If I'm willing to pay a little extra, have it delivered, that's fine. If I'm a manufacturer and I get a little behind schedule and have to pay premium service to ship it to you by air versus total ground transportation to keep you happy as a customer, it's easier to keep you happy as a customer and keep you as a customer than it is to try to go out and develop a new customer. And then the next area is water. Probably the oldest form of transportation other than putting it on your back and moving it yourself. The most common form of transportation for international shipment. Because I can move so much stuff relatively inexpensively across the ocean. For example, think about a pair of Nike Air Jordans. I don't know, what, 100, 125 bucks now? If you can get them before they sell out. The price of a pair of Nike Air Jordans is about 24 cents a pair to put in a container and ship to the United States from Asia. The total price of this pair of Nike Air Jordans, shipping, materials, labor, about $4.23. So if you ever wonder why Michael Jordan's still one of the highest paid athletes in the world, that's it. That's why. It's very inexpensive to ship stuff by sea. I ship mass quantities. The Panama Canal expanded and added a new set of locks that opened up 3 years ago. The old canal was built in the early 1900s. The largest ship that could go through it held about 4,000 containers. I got some pictures of those in the slide deck if you want to look at them. The new locks, I can take ships that hold about 14 to 18,000 containers. Big difference. Big difference. The more I can put on a ship, same cost to run it. Cheaper it's going to be for you to ship your product. Because of the sheer volume of containers moving around the world, roughly 500 million containers moved around the world last year. Just the sheer volume of those containers, it becomes a security issue. Keeping somebody from breaking into the container, stealing it. Keeping somebody from putting a dirty bomb in the container when it's empty and going boom in a port, or using those empty containers for human smuggling operations. If you look at the two pictures I've got in the slide deck of right after the slide on water shipment, I've got one picture of a smaller 4,000 container ship going through the old canal, and another picture from last year I took of a ship that holds about 16,000 containers going through the new locks of the canal. Again, pretty much the same cost to move one of these ships. A little more expensive to go through the canal, but pretty much the same transportation costs for the small ship as the big ship. I got 4 to 5 times the number of containers on the big one, so I reduced the cost to my customers to ship the product. And then there's pipelines. There was a pipeline in the United States that moved coal in a slurry formation from tribal lands in New Mexico to a coal-fired electric plant in Laughlin, Nevada. They put the pipeline in, they decided it's cheaper to put the pipeline in than was to try to run rail cars or trucks with all this coal. About 5-6 years ago now, the EPA determined that coal-fired plant was the dirtiest coal-fired electric plant in the United States, responsible for about 80% of the pollution below the rim of the Grand Canyon. Shut it down. They wouldn't put scrubbers on to clean up the air, they shut it down. So now that pipeline's sitting empty. So all the pipelines that are operating today are primarily for oil, petroleum, or natural gas kind of products. We got one running through Naismith Park here in Lawrence, a natural gas line. I got a couple of pictures there in the slide deck. One is, well, I gotta be honest, one of them is the pipeline in Hawaii. It just makes me happy, so I put it there. That's not the kind of pipeline I'm talking about. If you look at the other pictures, one on the right-hand side of the slide, that's an above-ground pipeline. I am a big fan of underground pipelines because people don't shoot in them. 6-7 years ago, somebody started taking shots at this pipeline. I'm sure the conversation before it took place was, here, hold my beer. Watch what happens here. I don't care how much alcohol is involved. You put enough shots down range, you're going to hit something. And they did. And all of a sudden, you got black crude oil spewing all over this nice, pristine Alaska tundra. And people got upset, as they should. So I'm a big fan of underground pipelines as opposed to above ground pipelines. Last piece of transportation I want to talk about with supply chains is intermodal. Intermodal is simply a combination of more than one mode of transportation. That's all it is. I got a couple pictures of intermodal. One of them is a painting from World War II that kind of shows all the different forms of transportation used to bring supplies to the Army in Europe, from ships to trains to trucks. Intermodal. More than one mode of transportation being used. There's some global supply chain issues I want to touch on real quickly, just kind of as we wrap up supply chains today. The idea of the European Union, the North American Free Trade Act that just recently got replaced by a new treaty, is to open up free trade between countries. Get rid of that duties and tariffs and taxes moving between countries. That's why it's going to be interesting to watch Great Britain to see how they do as they pull out of the European Union and now have maybe start paying duties and customs to move stuff from Great Britain to the European mainland. When I lived in Germany in the mid-90s, when I first got there, the European Union was not in effect yet. You went from one country to the next. You had to stop at the border, show them your passport. Why are you going to the country? Come back, go back into to Germany where I was living. Got to show your passport. How long were you here? What did you do? What did you buy? Where did you stay? Whole series of questions. By the time I left, the European Union was in effect, and you could drive from one country to the next. Didn't have to stop and show your passport. Didn't have to stop whatsoever. In fact, as we were moving stuff in and out of Europe for the Army, we discovered once the European Union was formed, it was actually cheaper to fly stuff into France and truck it into Europe, into Germany, than it was to fly it into Germany. Some other issues, though. And some of these are common sense, which a lot of business truly is common sense. But please do keep in mind the words of Mark Twain. Probably the only guy from Missouri ever really worth quoting. Mark Twain said, "I have discovered common sense to be the least common of all the senses." So even though most of business is common sense, a lot of folks don't have it. Or as one of my mentors used to say, common sense is a flower that does not grow in everybody's garden. But it's common sense that there are national regional differences between different countries. I mean, let's be honest, we have regional differences within this country. What people want right now in Southern Florida is not what we want in Lawrence, Kansas. And what we want in Lawrence is not what they want in Manhattan. So I have to understand these differences. I also need to understand from a business perspective the different business practices, customs, and laws within the country I'm doing business with. Otherwise, I'm going to fail. For example, when Walmart moved into Germany, there used to be a place called Verkauf. Verkauf was like a Walmart supercenter before there were Walmart supercenters. Great stores, big, huge stores. Had food, had all the stuff you see in a supercenter as far as clothes and merchandise. Difference would have been the back center of every Verkauf. There was a little restaurant where I could get a bratwurst and a beer while mama and the kids were shopping. The longer they shopped, the more food I had, the more beer I had, the happier I was. I didn't care how much they bought this spent. And the quality was a little better at Verkauf. I got stuff I bought at Verkauf 25 years ago I'm still using. Walmart said, we'll just buy Verkauf. They've already got a discount chain. We'll buy that. We'll just take our Walmart model, put it right on top of it. What they discovered was German consumers and buying habits and preferences are a little different than American. And now there's no Verkauf in Germany, and there's no Walmart either. They had the same problem. They moved to Mexico. Didn't understand the business. Got their hands slapped for trying to slide some money under the table with bribes. When they moved into China, same problem. Didn't understand the business practices and took a while for it to catch on. Now, it shouldn't be a problem because one of the laws in Germany, in China is you have to buy or sell a certain percentage of products came within a certain range of the store. Well, that shouldn't be a problem for Walmart. I mean, let's be honest. You go to Walmart, 95% of what's in Walmart says made in China. But Walmart wanted to put American products in the Chinese Walmarts and didn't work. So I have to understand the traditions, the customs, the business practices, and the laws each country I do business with. It may change how I ship stuff. Bottom line with supply chains, it's critical, is a supply chain, like any other chain in the world, is only as strong as its weakest link. The fact there are companies that do supply chain management or some aspect of supply chain, transportation, distribution, logistics, warehouse management, sourcing, procurement, they do these things as their core competency. So if I decide I don't want to do distribution center management anymore, I can outsource it. The beauty is there's over 1,300 of these companies in the United States. So if I have a weak link, I can fire that weak link and get another contract with somebody else. Supply chains are complex. Everybody thinks they understand them now because of the pandemic. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do. We looked at several definitions. What's important is that transformation from raw materials to finished product, the flow of product from raw materials to the end user, the information systems, and cash. I've got to have cash to make the supply chain work. We looked at information flow, that bull effect. The better the flow of information, the less distortion, less inventory I need. And we looked at the aspects of supply chain: information, sourcing, distribution, transportation. We looked at the SCORE model. It runs from the supplier to the customers, plan, source, make, deliver, return, and enable in every supply chain. Critical to the success of business. Critical to the success of any company is its ability to do those supply chain functions. So again, like I'm going to finish every class we have. Folks, stay focused. Stay positive. We're over halfway through. Stay engaged. Stay safe and stay well. Remember, above all else, it's nice to be nice. Have a great day.